Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. Today's episode is presented by Golf Dojo. Your space, your time, your game. Bring your game to Golf Dojo, Western New York's best indoor golf experience. Visit mygolfdojo.com. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you very much, as always, to everyone out there for watching, for listening, for following, for subscribing. I appreciate you all very, very much. Today is our weekly Podbag episode. This is the episode where you control the narrative, the topics of this show, your questions, your comments that were sent in, that were left on our YouTube videos. I'm going to get to as many of them as possible today. Some really good ones, too. Mostly Buffalo Bills, as always. But I'll tell you what, this time, unlike the last couple of weeks, actually got a couple of Buffalo Sabres submissions and maybe even one or two fun ones that I'll kind of save for near the end. So that's what we'll be doing today. Tomorrow, I'm going to have Tone Pucks on with me. Going to do something different. We're going to be live. I think we're going to be live anyway. Stay tuned for that. But going to do a new segment with Tone Pucks, a gambling guy. This is going to be fun, too. We're going to kind of tie in some Buffalo sports, some prop bets, and we're going to do that with Tone. So that should be a lot of fun. But anyway, that's tomorrow. As for today, this being the pod bag. Before that, though, real quick, a little bit of, not big, but at least notable Buffalo Bills news here on a Tuesday as I'm recording this in the afternoon. The Bills, to no surprise, have signed almost their entire rookie draft class. Keon Coleman's still unsigned. I wouldn't worry about that. Obviously, that'll get done. But, a lot of people have been wondering, well, with the Trey White money that comes first, June 1st, been saying it all along, a lot of that money, or at least some of it, would be going towards signing the Bills rookie class. Well, they did all that with the exception of Keon Coleman here in one swoop. So that is done. OTA is going on this week, which, I don't want to say it's interesting, but Bobby Babich, the new defensive coordinator, spoke to the media on Tuesday. Not much to take away from. Talked about being prepared to call defensive plays if that's what it comes down to. Talked about, what he's learned from Sean McDermott, kind of being a big mentor to him. This is speculation. This is just me maybe doing a little bit of tea leaf reading. But if I had to guess right now, as things stand, based on kind of the way Sean McDermott answered the question when asked who would be calling plays a handful of weeks ago, just maybe my gut feeling on what I saw and heard from Bobby Babich today, I would speculate, I'd be guessing, but I would say my money would be on Sean McDermott, at least this year, continuing to call plays for the defense. Maybe in 2025, after being a year at being a coordinator, but not calling the plays, maybe then Bobby Babich takes over. Or maybe he takes over at some point during the season if things aren't going right and Sean McDermott realizes maybe he needs to spend some time, doing other things, managing the team during the game. But anyway, just my gut feeling. My gut tells me that I think Sean McDermott's going to at least start out the season ultimately calling the plays. Which Sean McDermott has said he will not even have any kind of announcement regarding that until at some point during training camp. So we'll have a while to wait on any official news when it comes to that. And then one other note, unfortunate too, offensive tackle Tommy Doyle waived injury settlement will be coming. Just his knee, really unfortunate. Thought he was a kid who had a lot of promise, but injuries have hit him hard throughout his entire career. So Tommy Doyle will not be in the mix to be a Buffalo Bill during the 2024 season. Anyway, so just catching up a little bit on some Bills news. Now I want to dive into this pod bag because I don't want this to be a particularly long episode, but there's some good submissions here. And one other thing I will say too, I write these down as I get them. And sometimes I'll write them down. I kind of like have a spreadsheet that I will answer these and, get into them right now. But some of these I'm kind of like on the fly answers. It's not like I've spent a lot of time rehearsing, thinking about what I'm going to say. So at least some of these questions, I'm going to read them. Maybe I spent 3 seconds previously thinking about them, and now, bam, they're in front of my face and kind of coming up with responses. And I will also invite you, the consumer, send us a comment on YouTube. Any of our videos, almost all of our full episode videos are on YouTube. So if you got something to say about any of those episodes, any questions, any comments, make sure you leave that in the comment section. If it's a good one, I'll pull it from there and I'll use it on the show the following week. Also, of course, you can tweet at me at Patrick Moran TV or email us at talkingbuffalopodcast@gmail.com. All right, let's get going here. At SmithSons697 says, if you could undo or erase any one move the Buffalo Bills made this offseason, what would it be and why? This is a really, really good question. In fact, after I record this, I'm going to make sure I put this out on Twitter because I want to get thoughts from a lot of people. But I didn't want any of you to influence what my reaction would be. So that's why I'm going to wait to do that. I think the majority, maybe the overwhelming majority would probably be, if you ask the average Bills fan that you're going to erase any one move, it would be to erase the Stefon Diggs trade and that he would still be here. I'm very tempted to agree, but I'm not, because deep in my heart, I truly feel, and we might talk about this a little more throughout this episode, I think the Bills are going to be all right when it comes to their weaponry, what they have. They will be able to withstand losing Stefon Diggs. Maybe not 2021, 2022 Stefon Diggs, but bottom half of 2023 Stefon Diggs, I feel is replaceable. And depending on certain aspects and situations, maybe even an upgrade. No one player is going to be an upgrade over Stefon Diggs. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the system. I'm talking about the offense potentially. So I'm not going to say Stefon Diggs. I will say I would have been fine if they kept Stefon for one more year and then traded him or cut him afterwards. But again, I see a lot of what they're doing. So that's not going to be my pick. What my pick is going to be, and let me also preface this too. The Bills, and I feel like I'm saying this every week. Am I being a homer? Yeah, maybe I am being a homer. I don't know. But I didn't love a lot of the moves that they made. But there was no one move where I'm like, oh my God, I hate this transaction with like every fiber of my being. Have not had any of those this offseason because there's been some understanding in everything that they've done, even if they've been tight moves. And this question is not saying if you could add somebody, because there's lots of things I might have done differently in terms of maybe trading for a player or signing a free agent. But the question is if you can erase a move that's already been made. And there's not any one specific move that I just absolutely hated. But if I have to pick one, I think I would go with Mitch Morse. I would not have cut Mitch Morse. I would have kept him for another year. I love what the Bills did in the draft, by the way. They took a guy in the 5th round, a center from Georgia who was a 3-year starter, a captain. I think he could be a guy who, not too long into the future, may be their starter. Who knows? Maybe someday he might even be an anchor on that offensive line. Well, we don't know that right now. We'll wait and see. But Mitch Morse, even if he's nearing the end of his career, even if he is starting to slide a little bit in productivity, which personally, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't really see last year. But even if that's true, and even if, the contract was not a good one, this was one of those cases where maybe they restructure it or do something to keep him here for another year, because you're putting a lot, and I mean a lot of eggs in the basket that Connor McGovern, who has played center in his life plenty, high school, college, a little bit, only a little bit in the NFL. you're putting a lot of eggs in that basket that he is going to move to center and play well this year. Because if he doesn't, that offensive line could be in trouble, because now, at least as things stand right now with this roster, if Connor McGovern don't work out for whatever reason it may be, or he gets hurt, whatever it may be, man, you're going to be relying now, instead of developing a rookie to maybe someday be that starter, as things stand right now, that's your starter. I don't like that at all. Last year, and Mitch Morse has some concussion history, some injury history. But like last year, if Mitch Morse went down, you had Ryan Bates. That was one hell of a security blanket to have behind you. And then maybe Connor McGovern was your third option last year. Well, Mitch Morse is gone. Ryan Bates got traded. So you're really relying on Connor McGovern to be good at center. And David Edwards, who was really, really good last year as your sixth offensive lineman, is now your starter, at least as things stand right now anyway. He is your starter at guard. So I was a big fan of the offensive line last year, and I'm not much of an offensive line guy. I don't really know what I'm looking for when I try to watch an all-22 film, all that stuff. I rely to some extent on grades. I rely on some of the Bills content creator experts out there who could tell me, this guy's playing well, this guy's not playing well, et cetera, on the offensive line. But here's what I do know. The Bills' offensive line last year collectively was by far, in my opinion, the best that Josh Allen has had throughout his entire Bills career. Probably by a significantly large margin as well. So I knew coming into this offseason, there are going to be some tough moves made. But man, you got your franchise quarterback and a good offensive line in front of him. All of them were under contract as well for this year. So I'm really surprised that they got Mitch Morse this year instead of, holding on to him for another year and then seeing what happens. Maybe seeing how, worst case, seeing how Connor McGovern looks at camp. If he looks the part and you're confident, damn confident, he's good, and you like what David Edwards is doing at guard, maybe cut Mitch Morse at training camp. And I know that'd be a little unfair to him because, you cut him early so he got a chance to go to Jacksonville, a decent contract. I get that. I don't know, man. If it was up to me and I could erase one move, it would be Mitch Morse. Runner up too, probably even isn't Stefon Diggs. And I know some people are going to disagree with this, but I didn't love cutting Jordan Poyer. Did not love it. And I also did not love re-signing Taylor Rapp. Now, they drafted Cole Bishop, who I think ultimately, maybe not week 1 of 2024, but I think ultimately Cole Bishop is going to wrestle that starting strong safety Jordan Poyer spot from Taylor Rapp. But I liked Jordan Poyer, and I still thought that Jordan Poyer had plenty, maybe not plenty, but he still had enough to give the Buffalo Bills for this season. He was under contract, and again, I know economics play a big, big role in all this. I thought Jordan Poyer played well, actually, in the back half of the season. I thought he made a couple impactful plays. I thought he played that linebacker role really well, which the Bills, Matt Milano went down. I don't know how much that affected how much they wanted to use that. But I still I thought Jordan Poyer still had some gas left in the tank. Whereas Micah Hyde, who's a free agent right now, not sure that he had, based on what I saw last year, how much he would have left in the tank. But anyway, I didn't love the Jordan Poyer, but that's not the one I would erase. If I could erase one, it would definitely be Mitch Morse. All right, let's go here. At Pillarstone32 says, power rank your 3 biggest Bills concerns as things currently stand. Maybe not in any specific order, but the 3 that I thought of that came to mind is one I just discussed. The offensive line was a strength of this football team last year, the best that Josh Allen's ever had. And now you have a 40% new offensive line this year. Edwards is starting. Connor McGovern is moving. So technically, it's 80% of the same guys starting, but maybe only 60% because now Connor McGovern is going to a different position. So I'm not going to talk about that again. Offensive line to me is one of them. I talked about Stefon Diggs. I'll say this. Even if he is not the same player anymore that he was over the last couple of years, I think a concern is the attention that Stefon Diggs commands from a defense is going to be put on other guys now. We could talk about Dalton Kincaid and how good he is, or the addition of Curtis Samuel, the emergence of Khalil Shakir, and all that is true. But some of those guys are going to get double now, who weren't getting double last year because so much attention is paid to Stefon Diggs, who was your alpha male number one wide receiver. So regardless of what you think Stefon has left, regardless of what his attitude may or may not have been in that locker room, regardless of any coaches or maybe players that were rubbed the wrong way, at the end of the day, he's a guy, even if he is declining a little bit, that requires a lot of attention from a defense. Teams game plan to slow down and contain Stefon Diggs. So I'm a little concerned about the attention. That's one thing I don't think we look at enough when we've been discussing this entire offseason ad nauseum, Stefon Diggs being gone. And we talk about the off the field attitude. We talk about his declining production, at least anyway, in the back half of 2023. But that was a dude who just commanded a lot of attention. So how defenses are going to attack the Buffalo Bills, that's a little bit of a concern as well. And then the last thing is not any one specific player or position group, but one of my biggest Bills concerns as things stand right now is this a team that's just destined to get over the hump? They've had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity over the last 3 to 4 years. 4 years, technically, in reality, 3 years, and they didn't do it. That concerns me. I've used this comparison before, and I know some people don't like it, but, are the Buffalo Bills destined to be the 1990s New York Knicks, a team that was good year after year after year after year, but never could get past the Chicago Bulls? Of course, in this scenario, the Kansas City Chiefs are the Chicago Bulls. Are the Bills destined to be the second best team each year in the AFC? It's a fair question to ask at this point. The Knicks got to one NBA championship, and Michael Jordan took the year off and was hooping, playing basketball or baseball. I'll get it right. He was playing baseball. And the Knicks went to the NBA Finals that year, and they lost to Houston. Is it going to take a Pat Mahomes injury to propel the Bills to a Super Bowl? Can they get past the Kansas City Chiefs on an even playing field? That is, I'm concerned about it, because for the last 3 years, it feels like the opportunity has absolutely been there, and they just haven't done it. So right now, at least anyway, those are my 3 concerns. The offensive line, the attention that Stefon Diggs is going to command, or that did command, and just the Bills' destiny. Are they destined to be second fiddle to the Kansas City Chiefs throughout Josh Allen's prime, and for that part, his entire career? One more, then we'll get to a break. Alec Briggs says lots of national misperceptions going around about the Bills right now. What, in your opinion, is the biggest? All right. I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, because just 2 minutes ago, I was telling you that I am very concerned that are the Buffalo Bills destined to be the 1990 New York Knicks, the team that cannot get over the hump, the team that cannot beat the Chicago Bulls. To me, the national perception is that the Bills' Super Bowl window is shut, because to me, that is ridiculous. Yesterday's show with Anthony Marino literally played an entire clip from Emmanuel Acho, which, by the way, kind of make sure I don't do that anymore. On the YouTube side, that video went out, and immediately I got a notice from YouTube that the video was demonetized because I used a clip from Fox Sports 1. But anyway, my point was Emmanuel Acho, who's an attention seeker, a troller, a reaction insider, said not only is the Bills' Super Bowl window shut, but it's also drywalled. and then there's bars over the drywall. And that's quite literally what he said. Now, other national people, are saying less exaggerated versions of that, but the sentiment on a national level from analysts seems to be that the Bills are on a downward trend and that the Super Bowl window is not open. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. I truly do. I truly, truly do. You have a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. You have a lot of good young weapons that are still ascending. There's not a lot of guys on this team that are in their prime, that have hit their prime and don't have room to grow. Like Josh Allen is probably as good as it's going to get. Matt Milano, if he's healthy, he's playing at a level where you can't expect him to play better than he has, but he can maintain that level for a while. Rasul Douglas, ditto. But the majority, maybe Ed Oliver too, the majority of the good players on the Buffalo Bills are younger players that are still ascending, that could still be better than what they've shown you over the first couple of years. Greg Rizzo, Khalil Shakir, maybe even Curtis Samuel, definitely Dalton Kincaid. They just drafted, a talented rookie, Cole Bishop, Keon Coleman, of course, Christian Benford, Terrell Bernard, who's got like Pro Bowl caliber linebacker ability. And not a team that lacks weapons. It's not a team that lacks talent, which is another thing that Emmanuel kept hitting on, that the Bills don't have the talent anymore. I think that's just fucking stupid and ridiculous. So to me, the national perception that the Super Bowl window is closed is just, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. Anyway, take a real quick break. Got a handful of these more coming back. Some good ones too. So be right back. All right, we're back in this week's Podbag episode. You control the narrative, your questions, your comments. Let's continue here. At MazVid says, I think multiple players are going to have breakout seasons in 2024. Top of that list is Gregory Rizzo. Going into a contract year and fully healthy, he has the motivation and ability to really step up his game. Early reports out of OTAs suggest that Rizzo looks bigger and stronger than in years past. Second, I'll go for the easy button, the low-hanging fruit. Dalton Kincaid will emerge as the top target in this offense. Will have over 100 catches and more than 1,000 yards. And lastly, my hot take, Kyrie Elam will have a huge breakout year, and by the end of the season, cement himself as the starting number 1 cornerback. All right, big thank you to MazVids, one of our most frequent YouTube video commenters. Tell you what, some hot takes there. I completely agree about Greg Rizzo. This is a big year for him. Got to stay healthy. He's had feet and ankle problems the last couple of years. It hasn't really taken him out of the lineup much, but it's definitely slowed him down. He had 5 sacks last year after 8 the year before that. He's going to play an essential role in this football team, that's for sure. Leonard Floyd leaves. Who the hell knows what Von Miller is going to give you? You bring AJ Ebenesa back, but they signed Dwayne Smoot, but man, this is going to be, Groot's got to be really good this year. He just has to be. As for the other two, I should. You know what? I'm laughing. If you're listening to this, you just heard me laugh. Maybe I shouldn't laugh, because 100 catches for Dalton Kincaid, certainly a hot take, but not impossible. 1,000 yards. I mean, that would definitely put him in the top like 3 or 4 tight ends in the NFL this year, and it's at least possible. Kyrie Elam, your number 1 corner, man, that is really ambitious. I can't agree with that. Rasul Douglas is a starter. Christian Benford is a starter. So for Kyrie Elam to even get on the field, one of those guys got to go down. Kyrie Elam's not going to go into training camp and take away a starting job from Christian Benford. And he sure as hell ain't going to do it from Rasul Douglas. So that's really ambitious. I would say this. If anything, I would really like to see the Bills sometime between now and training camp add a veteran corner. We had a show last week. We went down a list of some potential available corners. I haven't been paying attention the last couple of days, but Steven Nelson's a guy that if he were available, I think he would be a great addition to this team. But yeah, man, I'd be more inclined to say get another corner and let's see if Kyrie Elam is even your third corner, your third boundary corner, I should say. I would lean towards that more than saying this would be a breakout year for him. Tell you what, though, I mean, he's not a kid without upside. He does have potential. Just are we ever going to see it, at least in Buffalo? I don't know. At introducing Mr. Lucci says Casey Hill has a lot more athleticism and upside with youth to further develop than Dwayne Smoot has. All right, well, maybe, but contracts dictate that Dwayne Smoot's making this football team over him. Dwayne Smoot had $1.75 million guaranteed at signing. Casey Hill's guaranteed money is $15,000. The Bills signed and guaranteed Dwayne Smoot nearly $2 million at signing. That tells me that unless he goes to camp and he is an absolute colossal, washed up disaster, he is going to be on this football team. You don't pay somebody nearly $2 million guaranteed to not be on this football team. So, that said, it wouldn't be unprecedented. I also remember a handful of years ago, the Bills gave O.J. Howard $2.5 million guaranteed, and he was so bad. Maybe not even so bad, but just not a fit on this offense whatsoever that he didn't even make the team out of camp. He got cut. So I'm not saying it's impossible for Dwayne Smoot to get cut in Casey Hill to make the team over him, but I just don't see it happening. Now, in terms of Casey Hill, the Bills would have to keep 6 defensive ends, I think, for him to have a legitimate chance to really make this football team, barring injuries, coming out of camp. Because you got Groot, you got Vaughn, you got A.J. Epinesa, you got Dwayne Smoot, who we just talked about. That's 4. They drafted Javon Solomon in the 5th round, a developmental project guy. They're not going to be able to just stash him on the practice squad. Somebody would probably pick him up. So that is likely your 5th defensive end. So I'm looking at Casey Hill versus Kingsley Jonathan. If you're keeping 6, definitely a battle worth watching. But Casey Hill making this football team is absolutely not a guarantee. And while it's not a guarantee that Dwayne Smoot does make it, it's really, really close to being a guarantee. At Jason Jeffords 7941. I don't see James Cook touching 1,500 yards rushing because of Ray Davis. I think we'll see him a lot. Davis is 24 and ready to go. All right, this was a comment in response directly to actually yesterday's show with Anthony Marino. One of our main topics was, can James Cook get 1,500 yards rushing? And so it's clear neither myself nor Anthony predicted that. In fact, very unlikely, but just painting a scenario where it would be possible. 88.2 yards per game over 17 games is what it would take for a running back to get to 1,500 yards. It's been done 7 times over the last 5 years by 5 different players, with Derrick Henry doing it 3 of those 7 times. Anyway, I agree about Cook. I don't think he's going to get to 1,500 yards. But if you want to use another running back as a reason why he's not going to, if your primary argument against James Cook getting 1,500 is he's not getting enough carries, which I certainly would agree with, I think Ty Johnson would be a bigger reason than Ray Davis, at least early in the season. Don't sleep on Ty Johnson, man. He was really good in a Joe Brady offense in the second half of the season. And I know the Bills drafted Ray Davis in the 4th round. And by the way, I like Ray Davis plenty. But this is a scenario where I could see the rookie being brought along slowly. Ty Johnson has plenty of experience. I think early in the year, if James Cook needs a blow, if James Cook gets hurt, if James Cook does something stupid and gets himself in a doghouse, I think Ty Johnson is going to be first up to get the lion's share of opportunity, not Ray Davis. Now, that's not to take nothing away from Ray Davis. Again, I like him plenty. I just think Ty Johnson has earned. I think Ty Johnson, for the time being, is your second running back, your running back 2. By the way, yesterday too, we said 1,500 yards rushing. And then near the end, we were like, maybe we should have said 2,000 yards from scrimmage because James Cook could catch the ball. To get 2,000 scrimmage yards in a season, you would need to average 118. So, which is more likely? 88 yards rushing for James Cook per game or 118 scrimmage yards? Pretty good topic there. Couple more of these before we bounce. At Friedman K11. Going to be visiting Bills training camp in Rochester this summer for the first time, and I'm really excited. What are some of the more fun and exciting things to look for during training camp? All right, well, you know what? Maybe I'm not the best person to ask. I went to camp plenty last year, but previous to that, I hadn't been there in a long time. I spent 5 years living in Florida and moved. So actually, technically 6 years of Bills training camp, I was gone for. What I will tell you, and maybe you might want to put this on your social media and maybe get some better answers than what I could give you. But what I will say about going to Bills camp is it's an intimate atmosphere. It's really great vibes going to camp. And part of that reason is because everybody is optimistic. You know, the players, the coaches, you see a lot of energy, a lot of optimism. Fans in the stands, really optimistic about the season, especially when, you know, you got a good football team. Bills drought years, maybe not as much, but right now, high optimism. So yeah, good atmosphere, a lot of good vibes. If you like autographs, that's your thing. They have autograph opportunities with certain players, positional groups at the end of each practice. Not a lot of bad seats. You know, I kind of liken it to, and I don't know how many of you out there have been to Major League Baseball spring training games, but when I lived in Florida, I went to enough of them, not a ton, but enough. There's not like a bad seat in the house when you go to a Major League Baseball spring training game. The atmosphere just feels a lot more intimate. And that's kind of like what Buffalo Bills training camp is. So yeah, intimate atmosphere, good vibes, autograph opportunities, lots of good seats. And you're just going to see people who are in good moves. A lot of positivity going on at Bills training camp. And speaking of, at Michael Andrew 8493, in regards to training camp battles, punter and safety are the only battles I could think of. Should bring in a kicker just to push him too. They're not, well, they may or may not already have one or bring in a kicker, but Tyler Bass's contract says he's making his team. He ain't getting pushed. Tyler Bass will be your kicker. Great point about the punter, though. Even after cutting Matt Hawk, Sam Martin versus undrafted rookie Jake Browning should be a good battle. And there's a lot of people out there saying, smart people, that Jake Browning, who's a really good holder too, apparently, that he is going to be the guy who wins that job. So if you're a punter fan, you might have yourself a good battle at camp. I talked about this earlier. Hill versus Kingsley Jonathan, assuming the Bills are going to keep 6 ends on their 53. That could be a good battle. Maybe not exciting, but like the bottom of the linebacker depth chart, like Nick Morrow, Deion Jones, that could be interesting as well. But overall, and yeah, for sure, you mentioned safety. Bishop versus Rapp might become like the battle of training camp. Also, talked about can Ray Davis push Ty Johnson to be the running back too right away coming out of camp. So no major crazy big battles, especially for the starter spot, other than potentially safety. But there's definitely going to be some interesting storylines over the summer. Bob says, who will lead the Bills in interceptions this year? Real quick here. I'm going to go with the low-hanging fruit. Not going to overthink this one. Probably Rasul Douglas. All right, here. Last couple. Jackson says, you and Joe, meaning Joe from Queens, did an episode recently in Power Rank Bills road trips. You use a lot of factors, but you didn't use one that is pretty important in visiting a town. Food. A huge part of people like coming to Buffalo is for wings or just Buffalo food in general. That was a missed opportunity there. All right, that's fair. That's fair. If you don't know what he's referencing, it was 2 weeks ago. Joe from Queens and I power ranked from worst to first, and we each had our own list. All the Bills road games this year, like in order where we would like to go to watch a Bills road game this year. And we based the criteria on weather, the opponent, have we been there before, price of the ticket, et cetera, et cetera. But to the commenter's point, and he's right there, Jackson. He said, food. They didn't talk about food. Doesn't for me personally. Maybe Joe, would have a different opinion, but I'm not a foodie at the end of the day. I'm a wings guy, love wings, a pizza guy, a steak guy, a chicken guy. So I kind of looked at the road schedule and I'm like, nothing really interests me there. Now, if they were playing maybe in Nashville or something like that, where you might be able to get some good Southern barbecue, maybe that would influence my list of road trip destination desires. But in my case, personally, for me, none of those places really, maybe I might actually bump up New York 1 or 2 spots because I absolutely love New York City pizza, which if you want a hot take from me, I'll give it to you. I think New York thin style pizza is better than Buffalo pizza. Well, I got a pair of Sabre questions here. The Fighter 716 says, disgruntled Sabres fan here. Should I be rooting for the Panthers to win the Stanley Cup? It helps the Sabres with a better draft pick, but the thought of all those former Sabres winning a Stanley Cup also makes me sick. All right, so what he's referring to, because of the Kyle Okposo trade to Florida, they got a 7th round pick for him, but if Florida wins the Stanley Cup, that would be upgraded to a 5th rounder. So if you're a Sabres fan and you want that better draft pick, that alone is a reason to root for Florida. I don't have any horse in the race. Me personally, I will be rooting for Edmonton, but it's not because I have any animosity towards Sam Reinhart or Brandon Montour or Kyle Okposo or Evan Rodriguez. And it's not because I love Evander Kane, who was with Edmonton. I just always have enjoyed watching the Edmonton Oilers. Being a kid, growing up, watching the Oilers in the 80s was as good as it gets. And I just love watching Connor McDavid. He's amazing for the sport. And to see him win a Stanley Cup would be amazing. So that's why, personally, for me, I'm rooting for Edmonton. But what's funny too? And I actually did look this up. I look back and it's just as a Bills fan, holy shit, man. The 2016-2017 Buffalo Sabres had Jack Eichel, who has now, of course, won a Stanley Cup with Vegas, an elite player. They had Ryan O'Reilly, who, of course, got traded to the Blues, won a Stanley Cup, and I believe he was actually the Conn Smythe winner for that playoff run as well. Sam Reinhart, who's with Florida now, one of the best scorers in the NHL. He had over 50 goals this year. Just incredible. A former 2nd overall pick of the Sabres, of course. And then Evander Kane, who, whatever, about Evander, but a great player. So you had Eichel, O'Reilly, Reinhart, Kane on your roster. Your goalies, Robin Leonard, who after he left the Sabres and went to the Islanders, was fantastic. Your backup goalie, well, he only played 1 game that year, but technically he was on the team and he played a game, so I'm going to include him. Linus Ullmark literally went on to win a Vezina just 2 years ago with the Boston Bruins. They were all on the Sabres roster 2016 and 2017. And that Dan Bleesma head coach team, 33, 37, and 12, just 78 points. It's unbelievable. Which, by the way, 2016, 2017, right around the same time that Rex Ryan ruined the Bills. Like the Bills had a lot of talent, and Rex Ryan was just an awful coach, changed a great defense around, made them a joke. And God, that was one of the worst times to be a Buffalo sports fan, when the Bills sucked. They should have been good, but they weren't. And the Sabres sucked and they should have been good and they weren't. It's just incredible. Here's another one. Last week, you said you wanted more Sabres questions. So here's one. Name a player not counting Krebs that you can see getting traded this offseason. Quickly here, I'll say Henry Yokiharu because it's just what they already have on defense. They already got Darlene, got Power, they got Briam, they got Samuelson, they got Clifton, Ryan Johnson. That's 6 right there. Maybe Yoki and a prospect or a pick or picks might fetch you something nice. Last one here we're going to get out. At the Dusty Marsh one says, what is your favorite Buffalo annual summer thing or event? There's so many of them. Buffalo summers are elite. They're amazing. There's something going on all the time. Events, festivals, lawn fates, beer tents, summer concert season at Darien Lake, Art Park, the harbor. You can go on and on. But for me, I don't know. You said pick one. I know this is not going to be a popular one, but this is my personal. You asked me, so I'll give you my answer. I love going to Queen of Heaven. It's in West Seneca. That's the weekend lawn fete in West Seneca. I live in West Seneca. Always among my favorite. I run into so many people that I see. There's some really good food there. There's some nice merch available. The beer tent is awesome. Some good music. Tip for the pros, Friday and Saturday nights get a little too crazy, especially if you're getting older like we are, like I am. You don't want to deal with all that shit. If you go during the day, and then the last day, Sunday, the beer tent pops, man. They got somebody who plays like old music, old person's music, and I love it. It's not too busy. But yeah, man, there's just so many things to do. There's no wrong answer, really. But for me, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say Queen of Heaven. All right, that's going to do it. Again, if you want to be on next week's Podbag, leave a comment on a YouTube video, tweet at me at Patrick Moran TB, email me, talkingbuffalopodcast@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all very much. Be back. Brand new episode. Tom Bucks will be joining me tomorrow.